Before that, let me preface that the things I'm saying right now are because I've made the mistakes. You are the doer when you are the creative. You design, you write, you produce. But there comes a point in your life na you choose, do you become the businessman or do you stay as the designer? A creative business clashes with the rules of business. Some partners go in, they're excited because of the positive outcome. But in business, it's not always positive. You always think that when things are going well, it's going to continue to go well. When in fact, most of the time, it's not. I've gotten to a point where wala na akong maibigay. Sabi nila, if you're the owner or the CEO or the president, it's always your fault. Ako, personally, I took that to heart very, very seriously. Content today is actually reinforcing purchase decisions. An ad can be content. Content can be an ad. But the difference is, did one give you value?
All right. Sir Dwight, thank you so much for accepting this.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
We're really glad to have you here as our second guest. This is something that we really wanted to do for the longest time, and I've always wanted to talk to you. For the people who doesn't know you yet, can you please give us a little bit of the long story short, how you got to where you are right now?
Okay, sige. So, I am Dwight Santos, not Ramos. Masyado siyang pogi. So, right now, I am the president and co-founder of SNKATK Design Lab. It is a technical and high fashion brand. We focus on creating, I would say, futuristic kinds of clothing and apparel. It was inspired by anime like Ghost in the Shell, Akira, and also movies like Blade Runner and all of that. But I started really as pretty much like most geeks and nerds na we were into anime, we into games. I started at ABS-CBN. I was a forum moderator. I don't know if naabutan niyo yung forums and message boards, but I was a moderator there. It's kind of like Facebook groups, but a bit more before the years of Facebook, yung mga ganyan. One thing I like telling people is I started there, ang sweldo ko was 7,500 pesos. And I commuted from Laguna to Quezon City every day. I don't know how I survived, pero I guess hindi pa ganun kasama yung peso back then. And that's where I learned a lot about media, online, design, and all of that. Kasi I've always been an illustrator and kind of a writer at school. After that, I went into a few things. I went into BPO, where I learned customer support. I think it's an important skill. And then I went into online marketing. I worked with an American online marketing firm that taught me a lot about what I know in online marketing. So email marketing, SEO, advertising, and all of that. That's where I cut my teeth and learned how to market yourself, how to build a brand. And I guess that was the turning point from me being just a writer and an illustrator to focusing on the other side of it, which is the marketing side. I feel like it's crossroad in journeys natin as creatives. And I'm sure you're experiencing right now na you are the doer when you are the creative. You design, you write, you compose, you produce. But there comes a point in your life na you choose, do you become the businessman or do you stay as the designer? Like Virgil Abloh, Pharrell Williams, Yoji Yamamoto, they focused on being the designer. And then there's someone behind the scenes managing the business side of it. Because doing it at the same time is gonna drive you crazy. You're going to be at odds. So during that point in my career, I focused on the marketing side, the business side of it. And that got me into the Yellow Pages, where I helped them create mobile apps. That was the first few mobile apps in the country. I'm glad to be part of that. I learned from some of the best people into creating apps, product management, and that ultimately got me into advertising. Because back then, I was the client. I worked with agencies to design my campaign. And I fell in love with that kind of dynamic. I guess yung time din na yun is sumisikat na yung Mad Men. And I fell in love with it. And my friends were in advertising back then. So, okay, from client side, I wanted to go agency side. I got hired at TBWA SMP. It's one of the most awarded Philippine ad agencies locally. And I learned a lot. Parang dun ko natutunan not only the marketing side, but ultimately it's the building blocks of a business. It's talking with suppliers, costing your service and products, talking with the client, selling, delivering on the promise, the billing side of it, the collections, managing every part of it was really a big thing for me. And I was there for around 5 years. And I would say I was glad na I did it. It's a very hard industry to be in. You know, advertising and the creative business is very hard. It's fast-paced and it thrives on what we call human capital. It's not like Silicon Valley na it's based on software. It's really your mind, your heart, your blood and sweat. I remember the times that we had to create an app overnight for a client pitch and then present the next day and dance. Nanalo naman kami, but alam mo yun, walang tulog. Tapos ang first comment sa amin is, wow, you guys look like zombies. But it's a great experience kasi I was a bit younger, like that was my late 20s to early 30s. And it allowed me to see different clients, different businesses. And then from there, I felt like, okay, I want to go startup now. I got interested into a lot of the startup news back then. People talking about PayPal, Facebook growing. I was an avid supporter of Kickstarter projects. So I saw how they pitch their new products, mga ganon. So I went into startup. First, I got into a startup in online lending. I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but it's one of the more off-path things I did. I was their marketing head there. I guess yung natutunan ko dun is hindi marunong magbayad ng utang ang Pinoy. Because after 6 months, we started to close down. Like that was a big loss for me. So I talked with a friend of mine who has his own digital agency. And I said, okay, I don't know what to do. Sabi niya, okay, I have a small digital agency. We do websites. You want to do marketing? O sige, let's give it a chance. I took a pay cut. So, part of in your career is, syempre, tumataas yung sweldo mo. But there comes a point na, do you take this leap? It was a 60% pay cut. I was gonna jump into it. It was a team of 7 that had not a lot of clients, diba? It's a risk. So now, from being comfortable in corporate, na not worrying about sweldo, now I'm jumping into it as CMO. So when we were working with 31 Digital and my partner Kirby there, now it's the learning of actually running and maintaining it. Na hindi lang yung pag-deliver ng project yung worry mo, but also, how do you keep these people fed and sumisweldo every month? It was a bit humbling but also a great learning. Ako yung kumukolekt ng cheque dun sa purchasing department ng clients. So kasama mo yung mga messenger, getting the checks, submitting the invoices, selling, budgeting, a lot of that. Of course, I'm sure you know about this. Working out employee issues as you grew. So I started there, team of 7. Then year on year, we grew so fast. Because we started adding marketing, UX when it was kind of new to clients. We landed a really big client. It's a big fast food chain. I can't say, but you can guess how many fast food chains there are in the Philippines. And that was really big for us, which allowed us to work with more clients. So from a team of 7 in around 5 years, we got to 50 people. And now it's another learning. Now there's scale. If you have 7 people, katabi mo lang sila dito. Ay, sorry. And then you can tell them what to do. You know what they're worried about. But in a team of 50 with managers and managers, now suddenly you're blinded. And technically, you can't know everybody's issues. Because as a team of 50, you're gonna go insane. So now it's learning how to scale. But alas, after that, the pandemic happened. While we were scaling the digital agency business, we also got into video production and a studio. So we formed Big Studios in Makati. It's a shooting and event space. And we tried to also offer video production. But managing those two, launching a physical business in the middle of the pandemic was really hard. Layoffs happened. We had to pivot how you do the business. You can't do it the way you've been doing it before. Clients canceled their projects. You can't blame them. It's the pandemic. Again, more learnings. Parang, what should you do kung di makalabas yung tao? Your clients have smaller budgets. They can't do events. They can't do big shoots. Thankfully, we got a long-term client that started doing live streaming at our studio. Our digital business was trying to recover, but syempre we had to do layoffs, so we had to downsize again. And in the middle of that, we just started our clothing business, which is SNKATK Design Lab. So what I'm wearing right now. Clothing is really one of my passions. Doing SNKATK is another leap of faith. Wala kaming alam in fashion. And we've always told this story. We saw these videos on YouTube back in 2017 about a clothing brand in Berlin that was cyberpunk and futuristic, used the most technical materials. It transformed, it folded, it had a hood, you can remove the hood. And this brand was called Acronym by the great Errolson Hugh. Wow, these jackets are great. Magkano siya? Oh, it's 1,000 British pounds per jacket.
Magkano yung peso yun?
Probably around 60, 70,000 now. Back then, parang mga 50K pa lang yun. Pero still, it's a 50,000 peso jacket. That's more than my rent and my daily expenses, di ba? So, my friend, si Sam, and I, we're always looking at that. And inisip namin, gawa lang tayo sarili natin. How hard could it be? Turns out, mahirap nga. And we were just insane enough to pursue it with any kind of creative pursuit. So we tried it. We learned from our mistakes. We started with prints. Like, tig 7,000 pesos kami. Tatlo kaming partners. We created hoodies and t-shirts. Oh, okay, bumenta. Okay, let's make something new. Better hoodie, better print technology. We couldn't do jackets back then. We didn't even know where to start. But over time, we started making our Noragi jacket, which is the kimono-like jacket, kind of like our trademark. And that sold really well internationally. 70% of what we made was sold to the US and Europe. And that gave us a lot more confidence before the pandemic to pursue it. And then we got into Secret Fresh. A friend of ours who was a big supporter of us was a friend of Big Boy Cheng. And sabi niya, tara, pakita nyo kila Boss Big Boy and let's see. And yun, super thankful kami kila Boss Big Boy noon. He put us in the shop on consignment and bumibenta siya. And we're not selling it at cheap prices kasi it's hard to make. Yeah. Pero bumibenta siya. And then over time, we produced more, and that got us into really doing the technical parts, like real jackets with real properties. With DJ Big Boy Cheng, we made a packable jacket that was water resistant. So it's a jacket that turned into a small pouch like this. And that got us on the map, at least in terms of notoriety or infamy. Diba? Okay, they're the guys who are not doing the usual streetwear. It's not just t-shirts and hoodies. And then we got a collab with Carla Ople. That's during the pandemic. And he really liked what we did. Sabi niya, why don't you pitch it to me? I want to invest. And we created the deck. We've had these ideas for a long time. And he liked it. So from there, we created our first real technical collection. It was the Dark Days collection, which was featured in the documentary that we did. So that was the first time we worked together. We showcased the items we created with you guys. And from there, yeah, we got into collabs with Mobile Legends, working with Asus a lot. We've been featured on StickerCon Singapore. That jacket was worn by Jeff Staple. And it's been a ride. It's not easy. Up to now, hindi pa rin siya madali. A creative business clashes with the rules of business. And I guess that's something we can dive into. Pero I guess that's the long story of how I got to where I am. I'm bad at recognizing accolades. I can't say I'm a success. I can say I went ahead of you, like in terms of age, but it's something that I'm working on. Kasi if you don't recognize success, what are you thankful for, diba? Ayun, I hope I didn't talk your ears off.
No. Actually. Sobrang dami natin pwedeng i-unpack dito, guys. Anong gusto nyong unahin? Kasi sobrang dami kong tanong. You got into TBWA, which is the most local awarded agencies, no? Konting questions lang there sa time na yun.
Sure.
And sabi mo din nga, no, parang that's where you really learn the nitty-gritty of the business side. I'm just curious, no, with those 5 years, like, what are some of the things na nakuha mo nung time na yun?
The number one I can remember is costing. So in a digital creative business, you're selling time. You're not selling products. You're selling the time of your creative director, the art director who will design whatever it is, the writer who will create the copy, and then the developers will create the website or app. And any other moving part is all time. Your product is digital. It's not like you have to buy raw materials, you have to have a factory. I mean, at some points you have, but it's costing that. So one of the best things I've learned is kind of boring. It's a spreadsheet, and creatives often avoid Excel and Google Sheets, but it's an important skill because how will you know your value? Like, we cost it out. My creative director's man hour is this much. If I sell it for less, we're losing money on every single creative work that we put out. And if I don't cost all the people that are part of the project, we're also losing money because someone's doing free work. But as an agency, as a servicing company, you're selling time. It's time that your clients don't have. So it should be paid properly. I guess that's one of the big things that I've learned. But aside from that is working with people. So there's the work, whether you're a designer, a writer, a producer. You make your documents, you make your call sheet, your design, your artwork, whatever. No matter how many deliverables you have, mas madali siya versus managing other people. Because other people are beyond your control. I can tell you how many scripts I can write in a day, but I cannot tell you how many people's problems I can solve in a day. And that's a different skill. And again, it's the crossroads being a creative and the other part of it. If I were an illustrator, I don't want to talk with other people. I'll just put my pen on the paper or tablet. But now you have to worry about other people's problems. Why are they late? Why are they delayed? Why can't they perform what you need them to do? And it takes understanding why at a human level, but also on a business level, how you can help them. Because you can't be a charity. I can't do what you're paid to do just to help you out. So how do you motivate them? And how do you prevent these issues from happening? How do you create a system that helps people do jobs instead of prevent them from making mistakes? Because those are two different ways of working. One is ruled by fear. When you create guidelines that prevent mistakes, it's penalties, it's immovable deadlines, it's unreasonable deadlines. It prioritizes people who just focus on delivering, but not delivering the best work. The other part is how do you create a system that helps them? So that involves removing blockers. So if I am a designer that has to churn out a lot of work, shouldn't you giving me less meetings? Shouldn't you be not bothering me with, so the accountants in the audience might like this, not like this, pero don't bother me with timesheets because I'm being paid to design. You're not paying me to sit at a seat for 8 hours. If I could do this design in an hour and I rest the whole day, then that allows you to do more work or do better work. So there's that, understanding your people, understanding their ways of working. That's one of the biggest things I've learned, and I'm still continuing to learn. Back then, the young people were the millennials. Like, I'm an older millennial. But now you have to work with the Gen Z and incoming Gen Alpha. So I don't know how to work with the skibidi riz toilets people, diba? So we're always learning. Hey.
Curious lang, what are some of the kinds of projects na ginagawa nyo during that time?
A lot of it was websites. Back then, it was branded websites, branded activations. And then second would be social media. It's the early days of Facebook where the algorithm was very simple. If you did a contest, you'll get viral. So that was a lot of what we were doing. But TBWA being a creative agency, it's not just the usual. We created a website where you can pick your band members, the music will change, the visuals will change, the song will change after you pick your band members, and then the winning band member will become the final band. We created Facebook apps that used augmented reality to overlay your face over a cartoon. We created a mobile app that played original music along with your recipes so that you can cook along with the runtime of the song. So it's a lot of that. My role there was the digital producer. They'll come to me, pwede ba tong gawin? Tapos parang, teka, tignan natin. So it's the feasibility, the budget, a lot of that. But it's also fun kasi there's never a boring day na, can you make me a portfolio website? It's not like that.
Yeah. Parang if you really love what you're doing, you'll find it in a way na just problem-solving things eh.
Yeah.
In a way. What are some of the things na ginagawa mo para ma-avoid mo yun? Yung kumbaga tinatawag na creative block?
That's an interesting question. My colleagues and I back then, you are burning bright every day as a candle in that kind of business, but you will burn out fast. I guess the support of your friends during that time, like your coworkers become your friends. You have no choice. You spend up to 4 a.m. with them. You eat, sleep, drink with them, drink heavily. Mga drawers namin may whiskey lagi for inspiration. So that's part of it. That was the recreation eh. You get to learn about these people, their interests. But in terms of inspiration, I've always been a Google guy. If it exists, you can probably Google it. If it doesn't exist, then you can start piecing together things. We had a proposal to turn bushes in a certain mall's park area into a playable piano. Parang walang ganun eh. But we found something in, I think, Spain or the Netherlands. They created singing trees. And it uses Arduino. So we started looking for Arduino people. Hey, can you do this? So apparently you can. So we work with someone who, using a cheap cell phone with an accelerometer, if you move the bush, it will play a sound. So we assigned a note to every bush, and you can turn it into a piano. So parang dun lang you just map, okay, what's the closest thing to this? Then look for the next branch, and then the next branch, until you get to something that looks like it. Winging it is a big part of it, na parang in front of the client, yes, kaya to. Kaya ba to? Ganun yung usual, And somehow it works, but syempre, it's not the perfect way of doing it. I'm sure ganyan nangyayari din sa inyo yan.
Kami ni Kuya Jerome, kami ni Chantal, kami ni Lapet. Sorry.
But you know you have a good accounts pag sila yung, kaya yan. Pagdating sa office, direct kaya ba ta? Yan.
Natatawa si Chantal, oh.
Nakarelate.
Nakaka-relate. Okay. Nung nag-usap tayo before this, the meeting, you said you came from being an IT student.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, what got you into advertising and marketing?
The shallow reason, I guess I touched on it, is Mad Men felt sexy during that time. But I also fell in love with the non-monotonous part of it. You're always coming up with new ideas. You're thinking of how to sell something that might be hard to sell. Like, imagine convincing people to buy your detergent, diba? But they can do it. They make it fun, make it memorable. So Lumen, diba? The Tide commercials, Mr. Clean. I mean, Tide Pods became a meme, diba? So it's that aspect of it na it's never boring. When I was in digital marketing, it got boring because it's all formulas. You have to send out an email marketing newsletter at a specific schedule. The character count is what you need to look at. But there's creativity in that. But during that time, when I saw yung possibility of we can create crazy things. And it's not just TV ads now. There was Facebook, there was apps. So that's what really got me into it.
The ability to make an impact. Yung output na nagawa mo as a creative, the lengths, the depths that it could reach someone is something na in-underestimate ko. Kala ko, we're just creating videos. But when we started on creating these videos for these types of audience, dun nagkaroon ng aha moment na we could really talk to people. We could really send a message and they would listen.
Yeah. And conversely, you could hurt people. Marketing, and one of its forms is advertising, is you're creating a relationship with someone. You're not selling to them. The relationship is when you think of buying, you'll remember me. That's the relationship you're trying to create. And I guess we have a responsibility to be ethical then. Because you're, like you said, you're impacting behavior. For example, dumb ways to die. Are you familiar with that? You're telling people to be safe around, and that's a good use of advertising. But also, there's the bad part of it is telling people that you will get rich by gambling. I'm not judging who's doing it, but we may have to think about it because gambling, unfortunately, preys on those with vulnerability. So there's that. So when at least I was doing it and contributing to that process, yes, it was very fun to see any effect niya. Even a little. Kasi I'm the producer. I'm not the one who wrote it. I'm not the one who created it. But I helped the guys who thought about it to turn it into reality. And when someone uses it, comments on it, you know that there's impact. You know that someone out there has a thought about it. And I that's a big thing for a creative, is to get feedback. And there's no better way to get feedback than being seen across the country or across the globe. Diba?
Question, how do you work with creative people?
This is actually an ongoing question for me, Sam, and my other business partners, because it changes. But for me, working with creative people is a balance. So right now, I'm on the side of business. Jumping into that discussion, business prioritizes efficiency, profit, capital, whatever. Right? It's numbers. It clashes with creativity. Creativity is unpredictable. It is hard to measure. Working with creatives is a balance na giving them leeway to work the way they need to. Ito, ang So Sam is the creative guy in our relationship. I am the wife in that creative relationship we're in. I have to balance his creativity with, hey, we need to hit a deadline. Oh, we need to hit an objective. I need to appeal to this audience. Needs to be an ad. But his part is balancing me. If I stray too far into efficiency, am I sacrificing quality? Quality in the long run, people will remember us. They won't remember that, oh, this is a very efficient jacket. No one's going to say that. They're going to say, it looks good, it feels good. Diba? So there's that, okay, I give you the leeway to work the way you want to. I don't ask you to work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But you need to give me your deadlines for when you're going to submit. Are we going to hit it? So it's give and take. Creatives want something, and us helping them, lead them, or manage them, we also need to give them something to hit. It's either a deadline, a level of deliverables, and if they're okay with that and figure out the routine, it's never the same thing for everyone. But if you find that rhythm, that's the best way I believe you can work with creatives. It's not forcing them to fit a routine that you've done or you've seen done in corporations, because that's always a bad way to fit a creative team.
So parang in a sense, like, yes, proper relationship, but at the same time, yung bigayan.
Yes.
Hindi naman lahat tayo perfect.
Yeah.
Kakamali, may mga mishaps, may pagkukulang. That's the ability, no? And it's really important that you really choose the right partners.
Yes. It's the hardest thing for me to learn. Kasi when you get a partner, they're like family. You can't just leave your family. Same way with your partners. If you're not aligned, you don't know what to expect, it's always a bad feeling. Some partners go in and they're excited because of the positive outcomes. But in business, it's not always positive. We've had days wherein we can't take salary. We have to cut costs. And that's not okay with everyone. It's not because they're bad people. It's just because their perspective is different. So it's up to us to really manage na, hey, when we get into this relationship, these are the possible pitfalls. There are times na hindi tayo kikita. There are times na malulugi tayo. May chance na magsara tayo. But the reason why we're working is because of this vision. It's that when you wake up every day, hindi ka gigising na, ba't ko ginagawa to? You wake up because, shit, oo nga pala. Diba? So, if pareho kayo ng ganon, that's a good sign. It's not 100% guarantee. Pwede magbago. Like, nagkaanak yung business partner mo. Their priorities will change. The direction of the company changes. That's a big thing happening right now. Again, I hate to harp on this, but if your business delves into the online gambling part, is that okay with all partners? Diba? So, you have to be careful, but there's no hard and fast rule. I guess what I've been trying right now is, instead of going into it as partners, we go into it as like a distributor and manufacturer kind of relationship. For example, if I had a store for hats, instead of, hey, Chad, I'll bring you on as a partner, you can take on this store and you get this much. But we're not married as partners, and we'll get to know, oh, wow, Chad does business really well. I like how he manages it. And then you find out, oh, Dwight is a bit hard on marketing, and I don't like that. There's no hard feelings. You can just, okay, end contract. Yeah. Then you can stay friends. Versus when you go in as partners, especially when you're going in with partners that are friends, it can only end in heartache. Kasi iba-iba yung, once money comes into it, mahirap na.
How can these people work together? Kasi it's going to be challenging, right? Like, but how will they stay together as a team, but at the same time not really give up when the challenges arise?
Well, number one, I'm a strong believer na everyone has to have a role. sa umpisa pa lang, clear kayo ano yung roles nyo. I don't know, like Dota or Overwatch, diba? Sino yung tank, sino yung healer. Similarly, who is going to call the shots? So number one, at least in capitalism, business is not a democracy. So say you have 5 partners. It's not voting. Voting is done, sorry to get technical, at the board level. But if you're a startup, wag niyo yung isipin yung board level. Startup kayo eh. There's no capital to fight about. So one guy is the president or CEO. This guy calls the shots in vision, in selling, the direction on how things go. All the other partners can provide advice. I think that's a bad idea. But if that guy decides, no, let's pursue this, everyone should support it. As long as it's not a crime. Kunyari. But then there also has to be who is the chief of staff or general manager, who is in handling finances, who is handling sales and marketing. Knowing those roles, but also how it crosses with each other, avoids the feel bads. Because, kunyari, your sales guy is never at your meetings. Nasaan na to? Bakit ganyan? Pero you have to think about it. Teka, ano ba yung role niya? Sales. Nasaan siya? Sa kliyente, nagbebenta. Then technically, this person is doing their job. If they're needed at a meeting, then we can make adjustments for it. Because you'd rather prioritize that sale. Similarly, huwag kayong magagalit sa chief financial officer nyo if ina-address niyo yung budgets. That's his job. Guys, this is a business. You shouldn't lose money. And your CFO will tell you, hey, wait, don't. Of course, the CEO or president has to make that decision. But those are data points that each partner in the business has to look at. And then, keeping together, syempre, that's your first question, di ba? Parang how do you, it's a single vision eh. If hindi clearly defined yon, you get into a business and you think, yayaman tayo, medyo mahirap. By what method? If your vision lang is yumaman tayo or sumikat tayo, it's not very clear. So, kung nalulugi yung business, does that mean we're failing? Alis na ako. Hindi tayo mayaman eh. But if it's very clearly defined na, okay, you want to be a go-to creative production house for this specific thing, then it's not bogged down by the ups and downs of the market or personal interpretation. What is that? Is si ARK, iniisip siya ng client whenever they need this creative production. Nilalapitan tayo ng kliyente every time. And as long as nangyayari yon, then align tayong lahat. Everyone works towards that. So again, president and CEO has to go out, do this podcast, go to conferences, go to clients and represent that kind of company that you want to be. The CFO has to give budget to do this podcast. The salespeople has to tell people, hey, by the way, listen to our podcast. Align kayo lahat. Diba? And then, when clients don't think of you that way, that's the time you have to go back. Hey, what are we doing wrong? Diba? I mean, that's the ideal way of doing it. It is never going to happen 100% that way. But as much as possible, align mo lahat ng tao na, hey, this is our goal. There's this book I read. How will you know you're winning if you don't know the score? Diba? So, kailangan alam ng lahat that, number one, hey, there is a scoreboard. Number two, what constitutes a score? Number three, what is our score right now? Diba? Kasi at least kung alam mong tambak ka by 10, okay, I need to score 10 points. Diba?
Ganda. It's really important to really define what success is to you. Because if hindi mo dinefine sa'yo, i-define ng ibang tao yun.
Exactly.
Define ng mundo, i-define ng social media.
And kung iba-iba kayo ng, like at the start, if nag-iisipan nyo pa lang, if you talk about your definition of success or your exit, if one guy says, oh, I want to be in yacht parties all day, ganyan-ganyan, that's not bad. But maybe you shouldn't get into this business kasi hindi tayo abot ng ganon agad. Diba? At least manage sila. Pero if they say, no, I'm willing to tough it out basta I get to that point, okay. Then that's a good sign.
7 people to 50 people is not easy. Like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, how did you guys do it?
Sige. So, before that, let me preface that the things I'm saying right now are because I've made the mistakes. I guess for the viewers or listeners, it's more, let's not put business people on a pedestal. The only reason I can say this is because of hindsight. What you need to do is take this as more information for you, but not as law. So, now, scaling. Super hard. Madali mag-hire. Post ka lang sa job street eh. Hire them, give them an offer. The hardest part is, okay, do you have a system? One of my investors and partners before, he's always made an impact on me the way he defines it. In a 5-star restaurant, there is a chef. The chef knows how to do everything perfectly. But those businesses are very rare. I would say a chef kind of business is, again, Yohji Yamamoto, Elon Musk. Well, maybe not so much, but these people like Steve Jobs, they know what they want, they know how to do it. But you can't hire all Steve Jobs. Similarly, in your business, you can't all be chefs. You have to run it like a fast food chain. There's a manager, there's a fry cook, there is a soup guy, the bread guy, blah, blah, blah. What does this do? People clearly know what their roles are. And you know what's failing at any given point. There's a user manual for every single thing that happens in your business. Because if wala kang clear roles, when this guy resigns, what happens? This guy takes all the knowledge, the clients, and the portfolio that your business has. And now you need to hire again. Diba? So let's say you hire Steve Jobs. If he resigns, you have to find another Steve Jobs or you're dead. Because they want him. So similarly, when you do business, it's important for me to create systems. Not only for them to be good at their jobs, but for them to also know na, okay, very clear yung gagawin ko. It's very easy for me as a manager to evaluate the person. Did you flip enough burgers? Versus, how many delicious meals have you had? Ang hirap and it causes burnout. So, diba, if you have a creative na vague yung targets mo, happy clients. But what if the problem was project management? Mali yung timelines na naset, but your creative work. So, if you have a system, you can easily bring someone on board. Even if they resign, if you find a replacement, the training is there. And if something goes wrong, you can look at each system to see, okay, where did we go wrong? Versus revamping the whole company again. I think that's one of the challenges in scaling up that we found out. So we were relatively younger back then when we got to 50, like in our 30s, 35, ganyan. And it's hard because we suddenly started hiring a lot. And that's because, okay, nako, bagong client, bagong business, kulang tayong tao, hire. But then we found out, okay, kulang tayo sa training modules. Now you have to play catch up. Okay, how do we train people while you have clients? That's going to be hard. Like you'll encounter issues of office romance na nagkakaselosan and ayaw magtrabaho with each other because may LQ. Parang, guys, I'm here to do business, not do guidance counseling. But you have to because it is your business. In scaling up, you also encounter cash flow. Is your client base enough to support that many people? Kasi you take on more people, your payroll goes up. You may have business now, but you have to look at it. Okay, are these regular employees? Will this contract be still there next year? If not, ano yung kapalit? If hindi ka makahanap ng kapalit na business, will you lay off all these people? Super important. I mean, that's the reason why we had to do layoffs kasi we had to grow big. But then the pandemic happens. Okay, I mean, it's unavoidable, and ultimately it's gonna be my fault because we took on those people, but we didn't have that vision. Oh, okay, well, nobody had the vision that the pandemic will happen, but still, important learning for me there is contingency planning. If in a service job you need more workers for a temporary project, maybe consider temps or contractuals versus hiring all regulars. Because that's a common mistake. You always think that when things are going well, it's going to continue to go well. When in fact, most of the time it's not. So that's the biggest part of scaling is having the system and having the cash flows in your view, and it's always ready. And in a creative mindset, parang those are boring systems, accounting, but if you want to get into this, you have to know it. You have to know it.
So one of the things then talaga, as siguro a creative entrepreneur, like not just knowing to be creative, but also the business itself.
Well, yes, or knowing that you can't. Kasi if you really do not like accounting, cash flow projections, get a partner or get an employee that is good at it. That will help you a lot. Kasi you might think mahal mag-hire, mas mahal mawala ng business. Mas mahal mag-lay off ng tao.
In a span of 3 years, you gotten to it to a point na you have 50 employees. Like, siguro, syempre, not just looking at the downside of things, but that must have feel a lot of pressure.
There is a lot of pressure, but it came with a high. Kasi we kept winning projects, bigger and bigger. So, it's good and bad. It's good kasi the business is growing. Parang the first 3 years was 300%, 700%, 500% growth. That's big. Yeah. You can't doubt that. But it's also bad because it blinds you. You become I became overconfident. During that time, I thought I could sell anything. And at some point, we could. Pero when things go bad, then you're blindsided na, okay, we're not prepared for this event. We're not prepared na, okay, next month wala na pala yung client. So those are the things that really put pressure on us na, okay, now we have to sell more. So you also have to look at your near future. Either hiring more people or paying yourself more as the owner, di ba? You have that option. You can take more money from the company. Sabi mo, okay, I'll do more. I'll just do more. Pero tataasan mo din yung sales target mo di ba? Are you ready to increase your sales targets? Are there enough clients for you to increase your sales targets? You have to look at those very carefully or at least get help from someone that can look at those carefully.
When trying to scale up, may mga bagay na hindi ka naman mafo-foresee. And at the same time, some of the things nga talagang sasablay ka talaga.
Yeah. It's never according to your projections Pero it helps na, especially working with partners, you have an educated guess. And when you do your scaling up, again, this is a learning, look at the worst case scenario. So let's say you want to get to peso value of a company every year. Is that the worst case scenario? Because if it's not, then you have to look at it more conservatively. Kasi you are not only setting yourself up for something, di ba? Kunyari, I want to be a 100 million peso company. So that's how much pesos per month, di ba? Like less than 10 million a month. But still, is your sales enough to do that? And you have to talk to your people. It's not just you. What are your people willing to commit? I guess that's one thing I believe in. Have people commit to you instead of giving them a target. Kasi they'll have a personal buy-in Ito yung sinabi ko kay boss. Kailangan kong sundin. And it's more realistic. Of course, you can push them a bit more. But pag sinabi lang, kaya ko lang 2 million a month. Kaya bang 3? Baka 2.5, boss, pag binigyan mo ako ng sales assistant. Then now you can project accordingly. And again, it's not gonna go that way always. But at least, pare-pareho kayo ng wino-work towards. Versus na, kasi if I give them a target, 5 million a month, tigi-tigisa kayo. What's gonna happen is if they don't hit it, sabi kasi ni boss, it's not their fault.
And as the CEO, it's always on you.
Oh, so it's always your fault.
Back in those early days, no, nung nag-start ka as an creative entrepreneur, I just want to know lang, what are some of the strategies that you did that somehow attracts clients to what you're doing?
I wouldn't say we consciously made it a strategy. Pero it's more, ano ba? Parang lakas lang ng loob. Na I'll do it for free or at a very low cost muna to show you that I can. Kasi that's an easy way for, nagawa na nila eh. O sige. That's always what we tried to do and has worked so far. Again, it keeps us in the mind of the client and the customer na they did this thing for me and okay, maybe I should give it a try again. I mean, that's part of the relationship building. And like, even if you're a beginner creative guy, creative girl, wag mo munang isipin yung bayad, lalo na kung wala kang portfolio. Like, when we did user experience design, when I joined the 31 Digital, wala kaming portfolio eh. Lakas ng loob lang eh. Parang kaya namin gawin. And we did it. And we didn't charge them too much. Kasi nga, hey guys, mas flexible kami, kaya namin gawin to. And it's worked so far for us.
Yung talaga, feel ko yun talaga yung ruta ng lahat when it comes to creating or venturing into their own eh. Is you need to show someone that you can do it. Right? And I'm just grateful na for the people na kahit alam mo yung wala ka pang nagagawa, bibigyan ka ng chance.
Bigyan ka ng chance eh.
Like, ganun din ba sa'yo? Like, nung mga early days?
Yeah, definitely. And that gives you that confidence boost also. Pero you also have to repay it with delivering eh.
Yeah.
It gives you that funding and time na, okay, let's explore this more. Let's create more. And those become your long-term relationships with your clients, with your customers na they can actually do it. Maybe mas mura sila, mas matagal. But in turn, they become more forgiving.
I just want to know, like, from your perspective or from your experience, how do you convince the client to go in your creative direction, to trust your creative direction?
That's a good question. And like working with young creatives, problem din nila to eh. As background, when you're selling something creative, whether it's clothing, a video, a campaign, yung common, I guess, reklamo behind the scenes ng creatives is yung client naman pinili yung pangit na idea or di naman nila alam to. Di naman sila gamer, bakit sila nag-ano? But you have to understand it from their point of view. That's the biggest way to convince them. They're working with you not because they are a supporter of the arts. Diba? Kasi if this were an art pursuit, bibigyan ka lang nilang pera and whatever you put out, yun lang. But you are in the service business and they have objectives for you. So, number one, there is the objective on the brief. Nakasulat yan. Sabihin nila, I want to increase sales. I want to appeal to the younger audience, mga usual. Okay, part nyo na strat nyo. But there's also a hidden objective. And this, I guess, takes a good account manager, account director, is also figuring out yung personality ng client. What are their goals in life? What are their hobbies? Mahilig ba siya sa tennis? Are they into beanie or mas itsy ba sila? Are they the type to want to be in the spotlight? Do they want to be in the photos on spot.ph? Do they want to be featured on ANC? Or are they the silent type that wants to get praised by their boss? Unless you're talking to the president, all of these managers, your clients, are reporting to someone. And human behavior yun eh. I want my boss to approve this because I'll get a raise. If your proposal makes your client look bad, bakit nila i-approve, di ba? For example, sa brief, sinabi nila na we should appeal to this demographic, but your campaign tells them otherwise in a not so well-worded way. Then, hindi nila approve, no matter how right your proposal is. So, it's knowing who you're talking to. Maybe you don't have that luxury, but at least during the presentation, appeal to them. And medyo underhanded, but also make it seem like it was their idea. Yung common dyan is pag nag-comment sila, yeah, actually, basing on your what you said, we thought of this, ganyan. Or we were inspired by your idea. So that really helps. And not every creative subscribes to this. Because at the end of the day, they have their creative work. Ito yung, this is my art. This is my philosophy. You shouldn't be in advertising if you're an artist, diba? You should pursue your art. Or at least detach yourself from the work na your work is being paid for by someone with an objective and it should satisfy that.
Part of playing the game is understanding the reality of the game.
Yeah.
Which is you providing a service for these clients, and the only way that you could do a good job if na-determine nyo kung what is success looks like to these people, and you delivering perfectly on that.
Yeah.
Because that's what it means
Yeah.
to be of service.
Exactly. Like the late great Virgil Abloh. Do you think he went into LV saying that what you want is art? No. LV wanted to sell t-shirts at 20,000 to 50,000 pesos each, which he can sell. Then that allowed him to pursue his art. It's give and take.
Can you talk about the mental toll of having a business, or basically being an entrepreneur?
It's super relevant to me kasi right now, taking a relatively short mental health break, it's very tough. So entrepreneurship, sabi nila, if you're the owner or the CEO or the president, it's always your fault. And sometimes, ako personally, I took that to heart very, very seriously. So sometimes you end up not asking for help kasi nga, fault mo to eh. Whenever something wrong happens, sinosolo mo. Whenever there is a success, you owe it to the team. So at some point over time, your self-esteem goes down, your mental health suffers because all you think about are the problems. You stop celebrating the successes no matter how small. And in a creative business, mas mahirap because you put yourself into it a lot. In accounting, it's hard to put yourself into it. In a rice importing business, it's hard to put yourself into it. But in something creative, you always put yourself in whatever presentation, video, or piece of clothing that you put out. And when it doesn't sell, when sales don't hit the target, it's always you. It takes a piece of you away. Sabi nga ng therapist ko, your job is a job of depletion. It takes from you always. And you should take note of this. Like, I'm sure everyone in this room, it takes from you because you are presenting things, you are selling things that are from you. It's your ideas, it's your work, it's your time. It's your human time that you are presenting, and winawarak ka every time na it doesn't work, it doesn't succeed. So that really takes a toll. So some of the things that I guess I could share with fellow creatives is our work is depleting us. There's no two ways about it. I can't tell you to disconnect yourself from your creative work. That's the reason why it's creative eh. If you disconnect yourself from your creative work, it's not creative work anymore. It's a commodity. It's a reproduction. It's a lot on your head all the time, compounded with running the business side of it. So you're worried about your employees, you're worried about your investors, maybe. You still have to find time for nourishment. So, diba, it depletes you. You have to recharge. Kasi wala ka nang may bibigay. I've gotten to a point where wala na akong maibigay. And if I was conscious enough na, hey, parang ubos na ako, I may have done a better job. But when you try to do it by yourself, don't ask for help, and don't recharge yourself, yun ang totoong burnout eh. There's a point na I can't even think of an original idea or a strategy. Think about it. You don't want to get your business to that point, diba? Your partner shouldn't want you to get to that point. The whole company shouldn't get to that point. So it doesn't apply to the leader only. So now what I'm trying to do is think about it from that way, running a creative business na. How do I not burn out my creatives and myself and pursue this goal of both monetary and also personal fulfillment? I don't think I have the answer yet. Kasi it's hard eh. There are targets pa rin. It doesn't stop. In this day and age na more, diba? Faster. Like back in the days, the first 15 seconds. Ngayon, first 3 seconds na lang yung attention sa videos. So it's a lot harder, but you have to take a step back and consciously say, we will not subject ourselves and our employees to this kind of use of human capital. And it takes courage. It is very hard to do it. Oftentimes, detriment to money yan eh. Because the ones willing to pay you technically want to abuse you. Diba? Chad, gawa mo ako ng 50 videos a day. And I want it done 7 months straight, no revisions. But mahirap. Sometimes it's on us to decline or negotiate. And for ourselves then, subjecting ourselves to that kind of work, what are our activities to recharge? It can be anything eh. Maybe it's doing a podcast, talking to a friend, talking to your spouse. It could be as simple as going on a run or a walk. Kasi once we forget to do that, wala na. Ano pa yung ilalabas natin na creative work?
That's why it's really important that you find meaning dun sa ginagawa mo na yun.
Yeah.
So you could be consistent in its pursuit, no? But at the same time, also knowing yourself na, okay, I'm feeling this way, it's okay to get help.
Yeah. It's really just being conscious but also vulnerable. They've always taught us, I guess, medyo way back, you have to hustle. You do it yourself. You have to be strong. But I think it's time na we disconnect ourselves from that. The Gen X and the Boomer way. It's just closing. It's just sales. You don't matter if you don't succeed. It's more we're taking care of ourselves because we know the cost of not doing it. There was this post on Facebook nakita ko na bakit in the 70s and 80s wala namang depression? Parang hindi nyo lang alam. Di ba? Hindi nyo lang alam and nag-suffer lang kayo. And I guess especially the young people of today, they're more conscious and aware. It's not because tamad sila. It's because they know their parents are the result of what happened. So I guess we can try to be a bit better lang at recognizing. Doesn't mean na we baby ourselves. Diba? Na parang, boss, self-care lang ako 1 week. Hindi naman laging ganon. But it's more recognizing na when you need it and communicating clearly. Huwag tayong mag-pretend na it's something else. If you communicate it clearly, if it's within what your company or your boss can do for you, then why not?
What are some of the things that you're currently doing to get back on it, but at the same time having that much matured perspective?
For myself, it's a work in progress. I've been at it for so long na I get antsy if I'm not doing anything. There are some times na I'm at my desk, you have your 2 monitors and your phone and iba-iba yung ginagawa ko on each. But it's self-destructive eh. You end up burning out your senses. You don't talk to your spouse or your family. You lose touch. So for me, it's consciously focusing on something. So it's kind of, what do you call this? New wave of thinking about it, but it's being mindful na when I'm making my coffee, I'm doing this to recharge myself. This is not just for me to wake up and do my job and then come back tired. I'm making this coffee consciously. I'm taking these 15 minutes to do it properly because it's for me. So those are the kinds of things. But in terms of working with a team, it's now being conscious na what are the goals of my people and what is happening right now so that I can sort of feel, even without them saying it, na hindi to aligned sa goal niya, personal goal niya, and it is causing them stress. And when there is stress, we also have to step in. The reason we are put in places of leadership is technically we can do everything that our people can do. So helping them when they need help. Ato, one thing I'm trying to champion is not to be a hindsight manager.
Okay, what does that mean?
So a hindsight manager is something like this. I am employee number 1 and I need help. Boss, paano po to? Madali lang yan. Gawin mo to. It's very vague. So parang papagalitan ka. Dali lang yan ba't ka nagtatanong? So you train your employees not to ask questions. But when shit hits the fan, sorry, can I swear? Yeah. When that happens, and di sila nagtanong, you go, ba't di ka nagtanong? Diba? And everything becomes hindsight. When problems happen, you have perfect information. What you do is, dapat di mo to ginawa. Dapat hindi mo sinubmit to. Diba? That's not how people will learn All you're training them to do is not come to you for help. So instead of that, ask them, ano sa tingin mo yung mali na nangyari? Ano sa tingin mo yung dapat ginawa natin? Not just you, kasama ka. Leader ka Ikaw nag-approve ng ginawa niya So you have to be part of the problem. It is your company. Because if it's not, you're just ordering people around. Hindsight is incorrect Alam mo na yung sagot kasi nakita mo na The trick is, how do you help them prevent it in the future? Mangyayari yung problema So, hindsight management, I've experienced it kasi. Laging ganon. Dapat ginawa mo to, pero walang solution for the next. Instead, help them. And then, once you keep doing that, mauuna na sila. Kasi you're investing in people na, ay si boss lagi nagtatanong. Uunahan ka na nila. Now your job is less. Sila na yung nag-iisip, lalapit sa'yo. Boss, okay ba to? Dwight, okay ba tong gawin ko? Yes or no ka na lang. Diba? So when you get to that point, your mind is free now to think of better ideas, bigger things. You can think of scaling. You can think of going on vacation, diba? Yung mga ganon. Versus, papagalitan mo lang sila. Nasa-stress ka pa.
Sobrang halaga din talaga nung hiring process no? You really do your job, picking the right people who's going to come in the company. At the same time, kasi sila din yung makakasama mo araw-araw.
Yeah. Ito, hiring, Hiring is a challenge for me. It's either I'm very selective, but also it's hard to interview and then know actually how they work Kasi I've interviewed someone in the past that extrovert daw. Pero when I hired them, sobrang introvert. Ayaw kumausap ng kliyente. So, teka, account manager ka So, it's a learning process.
Natawa ako. Sorry, yung pala yung punchline. Yung pala yung fake out ni Dwight.
Ang hirap nun.
Introvert na account manager. Ang hirap nga nun.
And ayaw magbenta. So, ayaw daw niya ng sales. Teka lang, ba't ka nag-apply dito? For me, it's still a learning process, hiring, and getting to know yung people. Again, like choosing your partners, choosing your employees is a big thing. Siguro just give them that contractual muna. See how they work talaga. Kasi yung CV, the interview, almost tells you nothing. It only proves that they're good at interviews.
True. As someone who is a millennial leader, what are some of the things that you've noticed and learned from the the older generation, but at the same time, the things that you've noticed on the newer generation?
Huh. This is something na I guess I've been thinking about. I believe na when you are looking for mentors, you need to have a mentor that is older than you and a mentor that is younger than you. Kasi you can never claim to know both sides. So one thing I've learned from, I guess, the older generation is the ability to just do and following hierarchy. It's something that we all have to follow. It's not because you are being a dictator, but more, how can you pursue a vision kung iba-iba kayo ng direction? Again, pag sinabi ni General na march forward, pag may nag-march left, baka pwedeng may mamatay. That's something that the Gen Z and the younger people can learn, but apply their own sensibilities to it. From the younger crowd naman, it's more their ability to recognize themselves. So, lumaki ako with the tough love crowd. Those are my bosses. They don't care about feelings. They don't care about mental health. To them is a myth, which is, diba, has resulted in wrong things. So, learning from the Gen Z of them being more conscious, yun naman yung kailangan natin malaman to balance us out. So now, how do we apply that? We are able to follow a direction, but also be conscious of the feelings, the softer side of it, and then mentoring those younger to us. Paano apply din yun? Kasi we're caught in that middle. How do you bridge that gap? So educating the older generation na, hey, totoo po ang mental health problems, huwag nating maliitin kasi it's a leading cause of, like in men, leading cause of heart problems and suicide. And telling the younger generation naman about the value of following a direction, of a vision, is because you're working towards something. So finding the proper way of communicating it without being belittling, I guess yun yung clash when someone from the boomers or the Gen X tell the Gen Z na gawin nyo to kasi hindi nyo alam yan. Immediately parang pinagalitan ka lang. Ba't ako maniniwala sa'yo? Why should I believe you if pinipintasan mo ako? Diba? Like in the elections, we're trying to convince people to believe in something that we do. Wag natin silang asarin. Wag natin silang awayin. That's the worst thing
Walang hindi nadadaan sa maayos na usapan.
Yeah. If I were to talk to a leader dealing with yung gap between the older generation and the new ones, for the older generation, it's being more compassionate and open. I don't expect everyone to fully understand what is going through someone's mind kasi magkaiba kayo ng age group, ng experiences. Naramdaman nyo yung hirap nung back in the day. Before the internet, the manual things. And the younger generation, when they say they are having mental health problems or struggles, it doesn't invalidate your own. Yun yung common comment di ba? Na ako nga, nung mas bata ako, mas mahirap yung pinagdaanan ko. It's not a contest. Iba na yung time, place, situation that they grew up in. What we just need to do is help them process what's happening. You do not have to sympathize. You do not have to baby people that are struggling. But you just have to understand. None of us are licensed therapists, unless there's a therapist in the audience right now, to help them deal with what they're going through. But we just need to understand that it happens to people. I'm not saying that 100% of the time na yun. Some people naman on the Gen Z side, let's not abuse or use it as an excuse. Na porket tinatamad ka, wag mo sasabihin depressed ka. Hindi porket na-breakan ka na ng boyfriend or girlfriend mo, it's the end of the world. We also have to be responsible. We were given an opportunity, especially in the creative space. Imagine today you are getting paid to make memes. Diba? So, let's also process it. Am I sad? Yes. Unless you're diagnosed, let's not use it as an excuse. Kumbaga, both sides are extremes eh. One side does not accept, the other side accepts fully. So we have to meet in the middle. Okay, what can we do when you are having a mental health struggle? And what can we do if the older generation doesn't believe in what you are going through? I think as leaders, tayo dapat yung nagpa-facilitate nun. Explaining properly what each side represents. Again, give and take. I am giving you this time to process whatever you're going through, but can you come back to me by this date with all of the stuff? At least may action tayo after. Versus yung left hanging both sides eh. Kasi if the older generation says, I don't believe you have a mental health struggle, it's an impasse. And if the younger generation says naman na ayokong pumasok because I have depression, impasse din siya. So as leaders, it's our job to bridge that na. What is a compromise between the two? It doesn't have to be black and white. As adults, the best we can hope for is compromise.
Ngayon, I want to jump topics and talk about something that you want to talk about these days. No? Ngayon, you've collaborated or ventured into creating contents with Unbox Studios. Can you tell me more about that?
So Carlo Ople, he's one of my idols. And yun nga, like I mentioned, with SNKATK, we did a collab with him. Carlo Ople is a content creator. He's one of the biggest YouTubers in the Philippines in terms of sneakers and all of that. And he wants to replicate it across clients and sponsors. And me coming from that side of advertising, media, marketing, I told him, hey, maybe I can try this too. What we're trying right now is to really create content at scale and more of create media entities or intellectual properties that can turn into a show, a publication, and all of that, which is the strength of really Unbox and Carlo Ople. Like he's created Unbox PH. He recently launched a gaming/pop culture oriented entity called Versus, and that's what we're trying to do. Is look at passion points, and that's what I love about Carlo. When he has an interest, he pursues it to the best of his ability. He liked sneakers, so he pursued vlogging. He likes toys and all of that. He created a shop in Green Hills. He wanted to turn into a pro trading card game player. He got into Magic and Flesh and Blood and umabot siya sa Worlds Championships. His creative passions, he pursues it greatly. And like what I'm learning from him right now is having that vision and then finding the pieces that will help you get there. Because it's not enough to do it yourself. You can't do it all yourself. He finds the people, he finds the resources to get there. So similarly with content studios, that's what he's trying to do. And yun nga, I'm learning a lot from him on pursuing this style. And it's also fun. Again, it's never boring. Kasi now you're looking at TikTok trends, Reels, what works, what doesn't. Ano na ba yung trend with AI captions? What are hooks in the first 3 seconds that work? How do you replicate it? How do you not make it like overly hard sell? So it's an entirely new thing for me again. And then working with the creators that do it. Back in big studios and like you guys, diba? It's a full production. You have your crew, your DOP, your producer, and everything. But here, it's a creator doing everything. Knowing your audience, shooting it on iPhone, like you guys are doing. Diba? Parang it's an entirely new thing, and learning to know how to look at trends. Like I'm 40, but now I have to delve into what the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha like. Ano na ba yung mga trends? What makes Beanie tick? What the hell is a skibidi toilet, diba? So again, it's never boring. So if there's one thing I'm thankful for is the things I do are never boring, but it comes with the hard part of learning talaga.
Influence and attention is the new oil.
Yeah. I greatly believe that. It's the economy. You are now looking for attention. Back in the day, diba, it's followers. But now followers doesn't even matter. You can have a Facebook account with 1,000 followers, but your reach is 20 million. It's because people keep looking at you. You're always on the algorithm. What you create is interesting to people, or at least that's what the algorithm thinks. So the creative side of it is, how do I create things that people want to watch? And the business side of it is, how do I work with the algorithm to push it out? And how do I work with potential sponsors and clients for them to sponsor me? Like, I'm really amazed with how Ninong Rai, sila Lumpia Queen, Abby do it. Because they've turned it into something that is a powerhouse business eh. And doing it the way they love to. Cooking, di ba? They've studied how the algorithm works. Which first 3 seconds works, what thumbnail, anong klaseng mukha yung nasa thumbnail, anong dishes, what kind of humor and editing. And it's all enriching kasi these people are learning as they go. These are real creators. So how do we replicate that at scale and for these clients? That's the challenge and I guess the inspiration for me lately.
Actually, ako din, I'm really fascinated on how social media evolve, and it's now becoming this thing that dati hindi mo kayang paabot yung celebrity eh. Like, pero ngayon, when it comes to the power of internet, magkakaroon na kayo ng way to bridge that eh.
And you don't have to go through Hollywood or star magic. Ito. So local example would be medyo old na, like Queen Yasmin. How did she get big? And then more recent internationally is I forgot her name. Si Demure, Modest, and Cutesy. They got so big just because of a simple meme. And now, that creator, he did the Demure meme on TikTok, can now afford their transition surgery because of it. 10 years ago, you can't even imagine that. So it's always new. Kaya I believe, like I said, you should have a mentor that you can learn from that's younger from you. Kasi if I had to keep up with all the trends, I'm gonna go crazy.
How do you determine whether content is just an ad or something more?
It's very simple. Did it give you value? An ad can be content. A content can be an ad. But the difference is, did one give you value? We recently did a survey at Unbox, and we polled 1,000 plus Filipinos that are Gen Z and millennials. And they are smart. They can tell what's an ad, and they can tell what's not genuine. We're already trained to swipe away. Pagkita mo ng mukha siyang ad, we've been trained to skip ads on YouTube, although may unskippable na these days. But if an ad gives you something of value, a perfect example would be Angkas. They're clearly selling you on something, but the value I get is entertaining. Okay lang. So it's kind of permission-based. Na if I allow or I consent to this kind of ad, it doesn't matter to me. It's content to me. No normal Filipino or human will go, wow, I really love the engagement on this ad. No. They just, haha, or they cry, they get angry. Those are the reactions you get. So no matter what it is, you have to give that kind of value. Whether you're selling something or not, you have to give that value. Kailangan man lang mapatawa mo sila, mapaiyak. If you deliver that, then you've given something to them of value.
In order for our message or the client's message to reach the audience, it has to be real and genuine eh. Because as you've said, hindi na tanga yung mga tao ngayon eh.
They can tell.
Like, they're not dumb. Like, they could really tell if you're trying to sell them something. And I really love Angkas as an example. Like, for another example siguro, like Lola Nenas.
Yeah.
Lola Nenas is killing the game right now.
I know.
Their contents, right? Like, they are selling you food, but you're consuming entertainment. Like, they're not really, like, some of the contents are not really directly about...
Wala na relation eh. Yung pag-back up ng car eh, di ba? And I think the biggest thing about marketing these days, or content specifically, what we try to practice is there is a self-expressive benefit. So again, back in the day, pag may nilike kang ad, it's just because, okay, this is cool. But today, anything you like, share, or comment on represents you. So if I like a post from La Pavoni's latest manual espresso maker, I'm telling the world that I am a coffee homemaker. Not because na I think it's cool, but that's what I want to represent. Diba? It's, you're curating your image online eh. So similarly, Lola Nena's humor, when I like and share that, it's because this is my brand of humor. Diba?
What I really love about content is that like there are a million ways that you could do it. There's no manual on how this will work on you or not, but you just have to find what is for you, no?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a million ways to do it wrong. There's no exact formula. Kasi again, that demure, modest, and cutesy is new. The A is just from Beanie, diba? So it comes from nowhere. It's either you ride the wave quickly or create your own genuine one. And one thing I tell my creatives is, i-share mo ba yan? Ay, hindi po. O bakit mo ginawa? Diba? Kasi that's already a big sign eh. If you don't want to share it, why create it?
And I really love what you said about dun sa yung behavior ng mga tao when it comes to consuming content. Like, likes, comments, and shares can be associated about something that represents who the user
It's
is.
your identity.
Right? Your identity.
You're telling
Yes.
everyone who you are.
What I really love then about social media is you could see different creative people on different industries. It opens up so many pathways or so many ideas that you could somehow do the same, but at the same time take something from that, and how can you apply it to your own field?
Exactly.
What role do you think content plays in today's business landscape?
Oh, madami. I hate sounding old, but back in the day, again, content was used as awareness. Diba? Gawa tayong video for awareness. Gawa tayong video to introduce. But today, hindi na lang siya awareness eh. Again, we did a study. Content today is actually reinforcing purchase decisions. Hindi na nga Google eh. When people are online, kunyari nakita mo tong latest mechanical keyboard from ROG Azoth Pro, baka naman. You don't just buy it because an influencer told you so. Nakita mo na siya, and then maybe ARK Prod featured it in one of their videos. Nakita mo lang in the background. And then it was talked about by another content creator na maganda daw yung mechanical switches. I'm geeking out, sorry.
It's okay.
But it becomes reinforcement na gusto ko tong item na to, these creators' content told me why I should buy it. That convinces me. It is now a purchase decision influencer. It is not just awareness. So, di ba in traditional marketing funnel, di ba you have your awareness, interest, desire. Nandun na siya sa lahat. Hindi na lang dito or dito eh. So, if you think about it that way, shouldn't you be present on a lot of content creators' feeds? Like if you're that kind of product, microphones, if people see the brand of your mic on every content creator's podcast or video, that reinforces na, hey, I want to be a content creator. Maybe I should buy that mic. It's not anymore na branding lang, top of mind. No. It's, okay, I should buy this. So that's a big role that content plays these days. Aside from the other roles that they've always played, diba? Information, awareness, research. Now it's also a way for you to influence purchase.
What are some of the things that you guys noticed about consumers on how they interact with these types of content?
So the prototype version of content these days is yung Boodle nung early pandemic. Diba? There's Dalgona, there's ube cheese pandesal,
Sushi bake.
and hindi kailangan celebrity mag-post. Pwedeng si Chad lang nag-post and, try ko nga to. Si Sam lang nag-post, uy, gusto ko. So, it's not just celebrity influencers, but now normal people who mention it in their videos or content in a genuine way. Siyempre, live sellers work, But also, kunyari nakita mo lang sa background ng favorite chill influencer mo. What's his name? The guy that does cooking videos, yung pag-uwi niya at night.
Si Ipoy.
Yun, Ikoy.
Ikoy.
Diba? He's a cooking creator. But the Crocs he's wearing, nakikita ko eh. Magkano ba yun? Diba? That's already a small suggestive way of marketing. Although, I don't know if he's marketing it, diba? But the jacket he's wearing, the type of stove he uses, that's already a form of suggestion na nakikita namin that works. And no one is immune to it eh. If you saw what your favorite creator is wearing, using, or has in the background, curious ka na agad. So, I guess for marketers, for clients, that's a new thing you can consider. Na, syempre, ayaw yung hard sell, di ba? So, be present. You should be present in some and a lot of creators' feeds and content. Yun na yung bagong word of mouth eh. And it's not just your immediate friends na tatanungin mo eh. It's everyone else. Ano yung lalagyan ng itlog ni Bretman Rock? Di ba? Yung mga ganon.
Kumbaga like, sell to me without selling to me.
Yeah. That's the easiest way to sell.
Do you believe that people never buy the product, but they buy the story that's attached to the product?
Oh, I fully believe in that. You're familiar with Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle? So it always starts with why. Why did you buy that shoe? It's not because it's genuine leather, it's 9 inches, diba? Because it represents someone you like. Michael Jordan, people who wore it, Travis Scott, Billie Eilish. You're buying into that lifestyle eh. No matter how small it is, yung nabudol ka sa TikTok nung no lukot kumot, hindi ka lang bibili because of the functional value. It's because pag pinicturan mo on your feed, maganda tignan. Why? Because it makes you feel good. So that's the story that we're always buying into. Even in the clothing that we wear, we don't sell it just because it's 400 GSM. It's because what was the story that went behind it? Na-stuck siya sa sketchbook ni Sam for 9 months, hindi namin ma-produce. And then suddenly we had the opportunity na delay yung collection. And pag kinausap namin yung customers namin, when they hear the story, okay, it increases their desire for it. As a creative, that's the best feeling. When you tell the story and they want to buy it. And that's important for us to have a why. So again, why AI won't beat us is kasi wala silang story. Prompt lang yan eh. It's a cat cooking adobo. But it's a prompt. But if you created art, or created a product, created a song, ano yung storya nun? Kung sino talaga yung market mo, papakinggan nila yun and they will buy into you. You just have to tell that story or the product itself tells that story. Pag nakita mo yung piece of clothing, nakita mo yung video mismo. Again, napaiyak mo ko, nakuha ko agad yung story. Nakuha ko yung hugot mo. And like as a marketer, parang naintindihan ko, may hugot tong writer nito. So, mas makaka-appeal sa akin because I'm of that kind of marketing eh. So, mas lalong bibilin ko.
In the end, we all just want to belong.
Like the iPhone. Diyan mo makikita na sobrang irrational ng humans eh. It is not the fastest. It didn't have the latest features. For years, Samsung has been claiming their camera as the best. Ngayon lang nagkaroon ng horizontal calculator yung iPad. But why do we buy it? Kasi nga, it represents a community that represents you. And you want to be part of it. Yun nga. Apple isn't a tech company. They're a copywriting company. And it doesn't have to be the latest tech. It doesn't have to be the most perfect thing eh. If it satisfies someone will buy you. You just have to know how to tell that story.
For creatives who are thinking about starting their own business, but don't have a formal business background like you, what's the first thing that they should focus on learning?
So given that you're already creative, you can create. I would say there are a couple of things. You can learn it yourself. Business is not just taught in business school. You can learn it, albeit with, syempre, trial and error, or working with a mentor, working with a community that has done it. The good thing these days is there are a lot of online resources. There's someone somewhere talking about creative business online. The trick is don't take that advice as it is. Because a lot of these people are trying to sell you something. Especially mga guru. I've been known to be a bit anti-guru. And in fact, don't trust anything I say. But take it as additional information for you. Apply yourself. But on the other side, find someone who can help you. Either a partner, employee if you already have the business that can cover your weaknesses. Kasi you can't be the all-rounder all the time. If you have someone who has your back, then you're free to be more creative. But you also have to know that they are playing their role. So let's say you are a very, very good commercial painter. You do murals for malls, BGC, ganyan-ganyan. And then you hire a business manager. Huwag kang magagalit if they try to control you in your pricing. Baka masyadong mura, masyadong mahal. Or how you promote yourself. Baka you're doing things that are illegal. Diba? So, knowing your role and finding that right partner would be a good first step. Tsaka, even if you learn it in school, that's not gonna answer everything. You will still experience problems. So, might as well do it in the long term. Find people, do it yourself, but you'll still need the help of other people.
Find the right ones though. No? What excites you the most about the future of creativity in business?
Lalim yan Parang pang Miss Universe. To me, it's more us as creatives figuring out how to actually run a creative business. There's this meme about morning people and night people. The night people complain who said that we should start work at 8 and 9 a.m. When was this meeting? It was held in the morning and hindi kayo naka-attend. So similarly, the business rules these days are done by business people, not necessarily creatives. And we have to find out for ourselves what is a creative business. Because I am at odds with how creative businesses run for my own businesses. Because, like I said, it requires us, sadly, pardon the term, to exploit creatives to do more with less. Either less time or paying them less, diba? That's the capitalist way of doing it. Your capital is worth more in your margins and your revenue. But there has to be a way wherein we can allow creatives to be creatives while paying ourselves. And there has to be a way for us to run a business that creatives are able to also create and sustain a business. So it's both ways na as business people, how do we allow them to flourish and not burn out? But as creatives naman, having a responsibility to the business, how do we keep creating without depleting ourselves? That excites me because we haven't found the solution yet. Maybe Gen Z will. If we invent a way to upload a brain into the internet, sana buhay pa ako by then, we find out how it works. But we are at odds with it, and I think we're coming to a reckoning. Kasi nga, the trend of quiet quitting, di ba? Like young creatives, young workers are quiet quitting because businesses asks too much of them. And increasing loneliness epidemic of us isolating ourselves. We're already getting to a point na, teka lang, baka we've strayed too far into the number side of it. But there's hope. Young people are smart and we're slowly becoming more open to things. Finally, may work from home na. And we are a hopeful race. So I don't doubt we're gonna find it. Maybe in our lifetime, maybe not. But one thing I'm excited about is we will take strides in doing it. We will make mistakes, but at least we tried.
And as you've said, you learn a lot from failing.
Yeah.
Whew. All right, guys. I think that wraps up our episode for today. Sir Dwight, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. The time flew by and I really enjoyed yung questions natin. I hope it's entertaining for you and the people watching.
Hindi man ito yung type of content that people would want to watch to make themselves entertained, but something they want to watch because they'll get something new.
Yeah. Even me. The only time I can think of these things as a whole is when someone asks me the question. So I'm learning from myself right now.
For people who wants to follow you, do you want to promote your socials? Where do they want to find you, and if they want to work with you?
Oh, okay. So you can find me mostly on Instagram at Dwight Santos. It's mostly just cat pics and pics of clothing. But if you'd like, you can follow me at SNKATK. That's our clothing brand's Instagram account. We'll be having a new release tomorrow, but by the time this is published, it's already out. And then you can look for the other stuff. So Unbox Content Studios on all social networks for content creation and working with creators. Big studios if you need an event and shooting space in Makati. And what else? I'm forgetting the others.
Sobrang daming business ventures ni Sir Dwight. Like, di niya na alam. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a like, comment, whatever. If you learned something new, it will really help us a lot in basically improving or making the show even better. And at the same time, invite more people in. Thank you guys for watching. And remember, what's behind the scene drives what's next. Keep creating.